The night started like any other, quiet, unremarkable, the kind of evening that slips past without leaving a mark. But by morning, it would become a timeline frozen in tragedy, replayed endlessly by strangers online who would later ask the same haunting question. Was she silenced for telling the truth? She had never considered herself brave. Friends described her as cautious, thoughtful, the kind of person who weighed consequences before speaking. Yet, in the weeks leading up to that night, something in her shifted. The pressure had become unbearable. Secrets she never asked to carry were pressing in from all sides, and the fear of staying silent had begun to outweigh the fear of speaking out. So she did what millions do every day. She opened her phone. Her post wasn't flashy. No dramatic music, no viral dance, no attempt to chase attention. Just words, screenshots, short video clips, saved from conversations she said proved what she'd been experiencing for months. She claimed she had been threatened, manipulated, warned to stay quiet. She didn't name everyone involved, but she named enough to make people uncomfortable. If anything happens to me, she wrote, this is why. Within minutes, the post started to spread. At first, the reactions were mixed. Some praised her courage. Others doubted her story, asking for more proof. A few dismissed it entirely, calling it drama or exaggeration. But as people dug deeper into the receipts she shared, timestamps, messages, familiar names, the tone shifted. This wasn't a rant. It was structured, calm, methodical, and it was explosive. By midnight, her notifications were nonstop. Strangers urged her to call the police. Others begged her to delete the post for her own safety. A few ominous comments appeared, warning her she'd gone too far. She didn't respond to those. She logged off. What happened in the hours that followed is pieced together from fragments, neighbors' accounts, emergency call logs, security footage, and the digital footprint she left behind. Sometime after 2 a.m., a neighbor noticed an orange glow where darkness should have been. Smoke curled into the night sky, thick and unnatural. By the time flames were visible from the street, it was already too late. The house was burning fast, fire racing through dry wood and trapped air like it had been waiting for spark. Emergency services arrived within minutes, but the blaze was aggressive. Firefighters battled heat, so intense they were forced back repeatedly. When they finally gained entry, they found her inside. She didn't survive. By sunrise, the news had spread far beyond her neighborhood. Headlines didn't just report a house fire. They mentioned the post, the timing, the warnings she had made hours before her death. Screenshots of her words flooded social media, shared by people who had never known her, but felt suddenly connected to her final act of defiance. Speculation erupted immediately. Was it an accident? An electrical fault? A tragic coincidence amplified by online paranoia? Or was it exactly what she feared? A message meant to end her voice? Investigators were cautious with their language. The fire was ruled suspicious, but not immediately criminal. Accelerants were considered, then questioned. Officials emphasized that fires can move unpredictably and that early assumptions often collapse under forensic scrutiny. Still, they couldn't ignore the elephant in the room, the digital confession that preceded the flames. Friends came forward to say she had been scared in the days before her death, that she talked about being followed, that she kept her curtains closed and her phone on silent. One friend said she had packed a bag just in case she needed to leave quickly, but never did. Why stay? Some believe she thought the post would protect her, that visibility would act as a shield. After all, how could something happen to her when the world was watching? But history has shown that exposure doesn't always guarantee safety. As the investigation unfolded, details dripped out slowly. There were no signs of forced entry. Smoke alarms had been disabled, though no one could confirm when or by whom. Her phone was recovered, damaged but not destroyed. Messages showed she had received several calls after her post went live, numbers that investigators refused to comment on publicly. The people she implicated denied everything. They called her claims false, exaggerated, defamatory. Some threatened legal action against those sharing her story. Others went silent entirely. The louder the internet grew, the quieter official statements became. Online, the narrative took on a life of its own. True crime creators dissected every frame of her video. Body language experts analyzed her tone. Commenters debated whether her fear looked real enough. Armchair detectives built timelines, drew maps, connected dots that may or may not have existed. But beyond the theories, one truth remained undeniable. She had spoken up, and she had died hours later. For her family, the noise was unbearable. They asked for privacy while simultaneously demanding answers. They released a short statement confirming that she had been deeply distressed before her death, and that they believed her concerns should be taken seriously. They stopped short of accusing anyone directly, but their words carried a quiet certainty. This was not just a fire. As weeks passed, public interest began to fade, as it often does. New stories emerged. New tragedies replaced old ones in the algorithm. But a core group refused to let her name disappear. They reposted her final message on anniversaries. They asked officials for updates that never seemed to come. They reminded anyone who would listen that justice delayed feels like justice denied. Eventually, the case reached a familiar, frustrating limbo. No arrests, no official conclusion beyond ongoing investigation. Evidence that couldn't quite speak loudly enough. Suspicions that couldn't quite be proven. A truth that hovered just out of reach, like smoke you can see but never grasp. What remains is her voice. That final post. That choice to tell her story while she still could. Whether it directly caused what followed or merely coincided with it, the impact was the same. She forced people to look, to question, to confront how often warnings are dismissed until it's too late. Her story is a chilling reminder of the double-edged nature of exposure in the digital age. Social media can amplify truth, but it can also accelerate danger. Speaking out can save lives, but it can also place a target on your back when powerful secrets are involved. And so the question lingers, unanswered but impossible to ignore. Did the fire silence her, or did it simply reveal how fragile truth can be when it threatens the wrong people? What we know for certain is this: she tried to be heard, and hours later, everything she owned was reduced to ash. But her words survived the flames.